Chain on chain of boundless ranges, undulate unwillingly to lick depths of heavens, owing dark gorges. Flanked by deep mist, furious river flow east way without stop. Enveloped in dew, why would bamboo leaves seem to weep in drops? Once and united as one in these double mountain borders, godlike warriors for independence waged war against murderous invaders, bound by platoon oath and commanded by seasoned leaders. In droves, million patriots uprose in arms for a legitimate cause. Of these gallant accounts are preserved both in patriotic songs, poetry and prose, still dotted with ravages of bygone wars, are clusters on clusters of death camps dented with bomb scars. In these Central Highlands, millions of peasants and workers, and to dethrone the colonial regime, revolted as one. Picking machetes, grenades and guns for a political revolution, Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi at the army's head forged a war council of 2 + 10. Victory on victory is then what preceded each wrathful martial mission. A hero of all ages without peer, Kimathi's name and fame will come down to all generations.
Born on October 31st, 1920 to Washiori Kabuga and Madhula Washiori, Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi was a Mumboi by clan. He grew up in a village called Kanyenya, Muhoya's location in North Tetu, Nyeri district. His father was polygamous and had 3 wives, but later died before Kimathi was born. Kimathi was raised single-handedly by his mother, Wadhuthi Washiori, though Kimathi's elder brother, Munuhe, assisted her. Kimathi had many brothers and sisters, but the immediate ones were Gishohi, the firstborn, Evelyn, the thirdborn, Wambararia and Wagura, the lastborn. Kimathi was the secondborn in his family. At the age of 15, Kimathi joined Karuraine Primary School, where he learned to write and read in Gikuyu, Swahili and English. He would later use these languages to write skillfully and extensively before and during the Mau Mau Revolution. Kimathi later joined the Tumutumu Church Missionary Society CMS school for his secondary learning, where he joined the debate club. Here he showed peerless skills in poetry, playwriting and music. In 1938, Kimathi underwent the customary rite of passage at Ihururu and consequently joined the warrior set. In 1940, while attending the Church of Scotland Mission School, Kimathi temporarily left school to enlist in the King's African Rifles. This was the African section of the British Army. He was posted to Ndarugo, which is where Italian captives were held. However, after 3 months of service, he tendered his letter of resignation and went back to school. His profound potential in the academic field, however, was never exploited to the full extent, as he regrettably dropped out of school due to financial constraints in February of 1944. Over the next years of his life, he tried his hand at different trades to earn a living, like gathering and selling of tree seeds to the Colonial Forest Department, then becoming a clerk with a dairy and timber firm, before becoming a school teacher at his old school, Kariaine, in 1949. All this before drifting into politics. Around 1947, while struggling to make a living, Kimathi came into close contact with the members of Anake Afote, the 40 group, which had been founded early in 1946 by General Wachanga, who was the president, Mwangi Nyaga, the treasurer, Victor Murage Wakabi, the executive officer, General Stanley Mathenge Mirugi, the organizing secretary, and Dominic Gatu, and other discontented ex-servicemen. The Group of 40 was a militant wing of the defunct Gikuyu Central Association, KCA. It was while interacting with them in towns and settled areas that Kimathi's political consciousness arose, and consequently his political interest gained momentum with unexpected speed. In 1951, Kimathi formally joined the Group of 40 under new leadership of Eliud Mutonyi, Bildad Kagea, Fred Kubai, Charles Wamba, Enoch Mwangi, Isaac Gathanju, General Stanley Mathenge, Dominic Gatu, Isaac Minor, and soon after joined KAU. Later, Kimathi vied for a seat in the same party and by majority was elected to office as a secretary to the KAU branch at Old Kalou and Thompson's Fall area on the 2nd of June 1952. As a KAU branch secretary of Old Kalou, which was then controlled by militant supporters of the revolutionary cause, Kimathi embarked on his nationalistic mission to liberate Kenyan Africans from the murderous colonial yoke. The Mau Mau movement began early in 1946 as a Group of 40. Gradually, it metamorphosized over the years to what would later come to be known as the Kenyan Land and Freedom Army. The Mau Mau was a militant patriotic movement out to reclaim stolen liberty and grabbed lands from the British. Mau Mau was a legitimate African nationalistic movement whose main aims and objectives were to destroy British colonialism and imperialistic exploitation in Kenya through military struggle. This was necessary since all the early proposed constitutional reforms advocated by the KAU moderates had miserably failed to yield any tangible result.
It was only the younger generation which had decided that because all other means had failed, we must use violence.
Mau Mau was an anti-imperialism movement that first came to the radar of colonial agents in mid-1949 as Kiama Kiande Mwaidhatu, which literally means a council of 3 letters. As the movement's influence soared and its membership widened, colonial agents began to panic after realizing the danger that the movement posed, hence hastily banning Mau Mau in 1950. This, however, did not dampen the resolve of the militant nationalist group to bring about a political, cultural, and economic revolution in the country.
Thus it goes without saying. Treachery of the filthy colonialist discovered. Blooming warriors in platoon oath conspired. Machetes, grenades, and bombs in hand. 3 nations contended for stolen lands. Gikuyu at the van, Embu assisting the Meru martial band. Land and Freedom Army engaged barbarians with gallant plans. General Simba commanded the rear. General Ndaya flanked with kindled Brent guns at the frontier. But it is Marshal Kimathi's shrewd schemes that shook Britons with fear. Unrivaled in courage and glory, Mau Mau's prestige from century to century shall transcend history.
In early 1952, the Mau Mau Central Committee was formed in Kiburi House, located along Grogan Road, now Kirinyaga Road. The Central Committee later made Kiburi House its headquarters. The Mau Mau Central Committee had 12 members from Gikuyu, Embu, Meru and Ukambani districts. The Mau Mau Central Committee was the supreme organ of the revolutionary movement. It was in charge of the overall policy formulation of both passive and active wings of the movement. It was set up so as to organize mass oathing, collection of intelligence and weapons in preparation for the inevitable armed struggle. The chairman of the Mau Mau Central Committee was Eliud Mutonyi and his secretary was Isaac Gathanju. Bildad Kagea and Fred Kubai were among its other key members.
Thus it goes without saying.
Protracted grudges lay foundation for hidden suspicions. Old betrayals, ignored grievances and extravagant violations only acted to cement tension and deepen contradictions. Stolen lands were the genesis of the escalating crisis. Cooperation through the oath was the entire host needed to rid the enemies. A million serfs, workers and peasants forged a monumental alliance. Against fascist policies, militant martyrs built up links and a fighting force. Overnight political, military, and agitation took a new radical phase. At Kiburi House, the Central Committee improved with deep conspiracies. Hands hidden in sleeve, the War Council increased with underground activities. At Kirinyaga Road, Bildad Kagia stirred the citizenry with new ideologies. Gradually, minds and hearts of the population turned toward revolt and revolutionary violence. Of Isaac Gadanchu's witty suggestions, I'll have them not committed to silence. Sitting on the armchair, at first, the colonial agents were ignorant of the looming danger. Still oblivious to the turning, the illegitimate regime of bloated arrogance still insisted on ignoring and underestimating tenacity of the daring nationalists. In its infancy, the revolutionary movement kept under the false expressive radar at their most vulnerable. Till the revolution of age, patriots opted to bind time. Matured, could the seasoned militants resist a duel with the savage imperialists? The traitorous Chief Waruhu was the first to fall. At Gura, the villainous Chief Nyeri encountered hell. Does the treacherous Chief Lucas' gruesome fate at Larry ring a bell? These to home guards I issue as few simple examples. Petty bunkers nationalists, their loyalty even today is still questionable. What daring generation will, for once and all, read us the retrogressive remnant talk, mortgaging one and all?
The formation of the Central Committee marked the beginning of a season of great efforts to rally the citizenry towards an all-out war for independence against the oppressive Europeans. To make this possible, first there was an introduction of a more militant oath called the Oath of Unity. Secondly, the centre for oathing activities was shifted from Kiambaa Parliament, whose seat was at Chief Koinange's house in Banana, to Nairobi. Thirdly, an intelligence gathering unit called the Group of 30 was formed. The Group of 30 was a paramilitary unit whose mandate had been sanctioned by the Mau Mau Central Committee. Its function was to disseminate the Central Committee orders to the district, divisional, locational and sub-locational leaders of the Mau Mau Central Committee. Warohio Itote, later named General China, General Stanley Mathenge and General Enoch Mwangi were among its prominent members. In June 1952, the Central Committee ordered General Mathenge with an army of 300 strong to set up military bases in Nyandarua forests in preparation for the upcoming armed struggle. General China was also commanded to do so and temporarily appointed the Commander-in-Chief of Mount Kenya battalions. General Enoch Mwangi was made the Chief Commander of all the Kenyan Land and Freedom Army in Nairobi. Upon taking the Oath of Unity in 1951, and after joining the 40 Group, Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi began to spread the 3 sanctioned oaths and presided over many oath-taking ceremonies in the Old Kalo and neighboring areas. Oaths were used by Mau Mau movement as a propagandistic and educational tool to mobilize and politicize citizens towards the impending armed struggle. There were 3 kinds of oaths as employed by the Mau Mau, namely the Oath of Unity, the Platoon Oath, and the Leadership Oath. The Oath of Unity was used to procure loyalty of all supporters and sympathizers of the Mau Mau movement. The Platoon Oath was a reserve of patriots who were ready to join the Land and Freedom Army in both the Nyandarua and Mount Kenya war fronts for martial confrontation with the British Army.
Ukaba ukanywa ukarya nyama nyamere gire ugacoka wekira agiditaini ukaharukiye uwo waharukiye uwo rege ukaharukiya hana hari nyama ya mundu ugathiho ukajya na kamera review mundu ari morage niyo kamera maita 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 nini takugate onogana mundu ukamwona hana vigiriri.
The leadership oath was restricted to the Central Committee's district, divisional, locational and sub-locational Mau Mau leaders. This oath also bound military leaders in the forest. Kimathi strongly believed in justice for all. This could only come about if and only when true and lasting brotherhood between men was achieved. For this to happen, each nation had to rule itself, as God had not meant any nation to be ruled forever by another. It is in his gallant pursuit of this justice that Kimathi began to recruit enrollees into the Land and Freedom Army in April of 1952 and setting up military bases in the Nyandarua forests.